Video is for, excuse me, Math 63. This is for the sample midterm exam. Give you an idea of what you can expect to see on the midterm next week. So let's go ahead and get started. It will follow the same topics that we've been covering over the past 4 weeks. So we've got fractions and decimals, proportions and percents, algebra and formulas, and so on. Okay, so let's see. Let's start out with the fraction problems. And you will have your calculator. You should have your calculator with you when you take the midterm. And so it's important that you understand how to do these on your calculator. My calculator is actually not really good at handling mixed numbers. And so I'm going to do these by hand. And they're all mixed number calculation problems. So I'm just going to do them all by hand. Let's see here. So we're going to make 21sts out of this as a common denominator, 2 2/3. Okay. So like I said, you feel free to use your calculator, but I'm going to go over how to make common denominators and then do the subtraction. So this is going to be 6 over 21. This will be 14 over 21. So we need to borrow from this 5, make it a 4, and that 1 is 21 over 21. So now we're going to have 27 over 21. So 27 minus 14 will give us 13 over 21, and over here 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay. Problem 2, 6 1/3 plus 3 3/4. And so again, we're going to make a common denominator here. That'll be twelfths. So this one gets multiplied by 4 over 4, and that one by 3 over 3. So this is 4 twelfths, this is 9 twelfths, and that makes 13 twelfths, and that makes 9. So this is 10 and 1/12, right? Because that 13 twelfths is 1 1/12, and that's how we got the 10 and 1/12. Problem 3. 2½ times 8 1/3. So this is 5/2 times 25 over 3. And that's 125 over 6. And we can just leave it like that. I mean, you can turn this into a mixed number if you really want to. That's 20 and 5/6 is equivalent. But you don't really need to if you don't want to. All right, problem 4. These are division problems here. So 5 1/3 divided by 2 1/3. So this is 16/3 divided by 7/3. And so if we want to divide by a fraction, then we need to multiply by the reciprocal. These two 3's cancel each other out, and we end up with 16 over 7. And you can leave your answer like that if you'd like to. That's what, 2 2/7? And you can turn it into a mixed number if you prefer. All right, number 5, 10 divided by 3 1/3. So that's 10 over 1 divided by 10/3, or 10 over 1 times 3 over 10. The 10's cancel, and we just get 3. All right, problem 6. 7 2/3 divided by 5 5/6. So let's see, 21. So that's 23 over 3 divided by 35 over 6. So then we'll multiply by the reciprocal here. Let's see, 3 goes into 6 twice. So this is 46 over 35. And that's lowest terms. I mean, that's the one thing. You know, I keep saying you can leave this in the form that it's in, but if it needs to be reduced, then you should reduce fraction. Okay, let's move on and look at some decimal questions. Problem 7. Let's see here. So we want to list these in order from least to greatest. So smallest to biggest. And so, if you remember when we were going over these a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that it's often helpful to write them down vertically with the decimal points lined up. And then you can either fill in the zeros so that they all have the same number of decimal places, or you can just compare their place values. Okay? You can see this is the smallest one right here, right? Because it has a 0 in the ones place, whereas all these other ones have larger numbers. So 0.983. And then this one is going to be the next smallest, 6.23, because these both have a 7 in the ones place, and this one is much larger. So 6.23. What's next? The sevens. So these both have a 7 in the ones place, but this has a 2 in the tenths place, and this has a 4. This one's smaller, this one's bigger. Okay? So the trick here is that sometimes people think of this, oh, this is like 74 and this is like 724. If you think of this as 724, this is 740. Okay, that's the purpose of adding those zeros if you choose to approach the problem that way. So this is the next one, 7.24, and then 7.4, and then the 62 is the largest one. All right. Problem 8. Let's see, I'm just going to write these down vertically. 28,469.15. 28,289.51. 30,001.01. 34,206.5, and 35,206.49. Okay, so those two, actually those last two are the only ones that are really close to each other. Here, all of the determination for which one's bigger and which one's smaller is going to be made out here in the thousands and 10,000s place. So these are both. So these are the two smallest ones right here. This one is the smaller of the two. So 28,289.51, and because this one is 28,200 and this is 28,400. So that's the next one, 28,469.15. So those are both gone. Then next comes the 30,000. 0.01, and then the 34,000, then the 35,000. Okay, so 34,206.5, and I guess it's kind of confusing to put the commas between the numbers and then also within the number, so I'll just do that. And then 35,206.49. Yeah, when I was writing these down, it looked like they were close together because of that 206.5 and 206.49, but they differ in the thousands place, so they're actually not that close together. All right, so that's ordering decimals, and that's all about place value, All right, next on the bottom of page 1, converting fractions into decimals. So remember, the fraction bar means divided by, so these. You can do these without a calculator, but I'm going to use mine for this. 5 divided by 12.416 repeating. So just put a bar over the repeating part. Okay? Now my calculator puts a 7 at the end. That's not correct. It's an infinite string of 6s. Number 10. 5 over 8 is 5 divided by 8, and that one should be 0.625. And don't round these off unless the test asks you to round something off. Otherwise, if it's a repeating decimal, use a bar. If it's a terminating decimal, include all the decimal places. Let's see, 8 over 25. This one, oops, over 25. That should give us 0.32. All right, 32 over 100 is the same as 8 over 25. Okay. Problem 12. Now we're going in the other direction. Turn these decimals into fractions. 0.12. So you may have a calculator that has this feature. On the graphing calculator, it's in the math section. I can go 0.012, hit the math key, and then the very first choice is change it to a fraction. And that'll be 3 over 250. So without a calculator, what you would do is pick out the place value. This 2 is in the thousandths place. And so this fraction, or this decimal, is 12 over 1,000. And then it gets reduced. You divide these both by 4, right? 4 goes into 12 3 times, 4 goes into 1,000 250 times, and that's how we get our fraction expression there. 13 is pretty straightforward here, 0.6. Again, you can use your calculator to do this. This is, again, the place value is 6/10. Divide them both by 2, and there's your 3 over 5. Problem 14, 0.33. This is 33 over 100, and it doesn't reduce. And again, you can do that on the calculator, or you can do that by picking out the place value of the last digit in the decimal. Okay. Let's see here. Now, problem 15. We want to express 0.642 as a percent. Okay? So that means we either need to multiply it by 100, which has the effect of moving the decimal point 2 places over. This will be 64.2%. Let's see here. Express 24% as a fraction in lowest terms. 24% is 0.24, which is 24 over 100. Okay? Let's see. So, as a fraction, we can divide these both by 4, and that'll give us 6 over 25. And again, at this point right here, you could use your calculator to turn 0.24 into a fraction, but it's not that hard to do it by hand. 17, 3/4 as a percent. So first, let's make it a decimal, 0.75. Then move the decimal point 2 places over. That's 75%. All right. Problem 18. So this is where we get into the is and of problems. So you can say is over of equals percent over 100, or the percent as a decimal times of equals is. All right. Find 1.3% of 165. Okay. So 65 is the of number, 1.3 is the percentage, and we can go 1.3 times 65 and then divide by 100. 1.3 times 65 divided by 100. So x is 0.845. Okay. Problem 19. What percent of 16 is 7? All right, what percent of 16 is 7? And then over here, we're looking for x. So we're going to do 7 times 100 and then divide by 16. 7 times 100 divided by 16. This x then is 43.75, and it's good to put that percent sign in your answer if you're being asked to find a percent. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? Problem 20, 75 is 15% of what number? Okay, so 75 is, so that goes on top, 15%, so that goes over 100, and then what number, of what number, of is what we're trying to find there. So, to find this, we do 75 times 100. Let's see here, 75 times 100. And then divide it by 15, and x equals 500. So that says 75 is 15% of 500. Okay, so that's it for the those calculation problems. And now we've got some word problems on the next page. So let's take a look at those. Let's see. I'll leave these up here. You may want to write these on your note card if you're bringing a 3x5 note card to the test with you. I won't provide this information for you on the test. All right, problem 21. Cost of beef at the supermarket rose from 4 1/4 per pound to 4.90. All right, let's see, problem 21. So 425 up to 490. Find the percent increase. All right. So remember, percent increase means that you take the amount of the increase or decrease, as the case may be, and divide it by the original value, price, or whatever it may be. Okay. So the amount of the increase here is going to be, what is that, 65 cents, I believe. Let's see, 490 minus 4 1/4, 65 cents. So that's the amount of the increase. It started at $4.25, and that takes the place of the is over of in our problem. Okay, so I can do 0.65 times 100, and then divide it by 425, and if we round it to the nearest tenth of a percent, that'll be 15.3% increase. All right, problem 22. In a recent election, 112,492 people voted. This is 40% of all registered voters. How many registered voters are there? So sometimes it's helpful to take a minute and think to yourself, well, is the number of registered voters going to be bigger or smaller than this number? All right, because then we get into that issue of what's the part and what's the whole. Is this the part or is this the whole? Well, all registered voters is the total number of registered voters. That's the whole, okay? The number of people who voted is part of that group, all right? So this is the part. We're looking for the whole, and the percentage we've got is 40%. So we're going to do 112,492 times 100. And then divide that by 40. 281,230 registered voters total. Okay, metal bar weighs 8.15 ounces. 8.15 ounces. 93% of the metal bar is silver. How many ounces of silver are in the bar? Okay. Well, so again, you can think of this as part and whole since we don't really have is or of, but let's see. Yeah, so 93% of the total, 8.15 ounces, is silver. Okay? So the of is the 8.15 ounces. That's the whole. Alright? The part is the part that is silver. And that's what we're looking for. Over here, the percentage is 93%. And so we need to do 8.15 times 93, and then divide that by 100. So it's 7. Let's see, did I put any rounding on here? Nope. Okay. So x equals 7.5795 ounces. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. 3 people invested in a business together, with each one owning a percentage of the business according to how much they invested. Alan invested $1,800, Betty invested $2,500, and Charlie invested $4,000. Find the percentage ownership for each of the 3 people, and round your answers to the nearest 1/10%. All right, so let's see here. Problem 24. Alan is $1,800. Betty is $2,500. Charlie is $4,000. Okay, so total what we've got here is, let's see, 3, carry 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. $8,300 total. So what we need to find out is what percentage of this total is each of these amounts. Okay? So we're going to do 1,800 over 8,300 equals x over 100. And then 2,500 over 8,300. And then 4,000 over 8,300. And then we'll solve for x in each one of those cases. All right, so 1,800 times 100 and divided by 8,300 to the nearest 1/10 of a percent, 21.7%. All right, then we do 2,500 times 100 and divided by 8,300. This is 30.1%. And then this last one, 4,000 times 100 divided by 8,300, 48.2%. And it looks like, yeah, that's going to add up to 100%. Okay, sometimes when you do rounding, you get 99.9% or 100.1%, but these add up to be exactly 100%. Okay, so there's their percentage of ownership in the business. Then it says the business makes a $5,000 profit in 1 year, and those profits are divided according to the ownership percentage. So someone who owns 10% of the business gets 10% of the profits. Okay, so now, so that whole now is 5,000, and we'll take each one of these percentages and then find out how much each person should get based on that. And then the last one, 48.2 over 100. Okay, so let's see here. 5,000 times 21.7 divided by 100, 1,085. And then 30.1 times 5,000 divided by 100, $1,505. And then 48.2 times 5,000 divided by 100, 2,410. And we can double check this, make sure that it adds up to give us 5,000. So that looks good. Okay, so that problem was kind of involved. It requires a little bit of thinking about the situation and how that whole thing is going to play out. But this is a very, common use of percentages. Okay. All right, let's see. Last page here. Problem 25. Let's go ahead and erase the percentage information. If you can stop the video or rewind it if you need to see that all again. All right, problem 25 is algebra, and we want to get the x by itself. So 5x minus 4 equals 12. So we want to add the 4 to both sides, so those cancel out. And then divide on both sides by 5. So we get 16 over 5. That's going to be, what, 3.2. You can leave it as 16 over 5. You can make it a decimal if you want. You can call it 3 1/5 as well. All those answers are correct. All right, problem 26. 7x minus 12 equals 4 minus 8x. Okay, so let's get the x's together. Let's bring this 8x over with the 7x. So those cancel out. Over here we got 15x minus 12. Now we'll move the 12 over with the 4. So we get 15x equals 16. Divide on both sides by 15. And x is 16/15. That's going to be a repeating decimal. You can use that number if you'd like. There's nothing wrong with it. But do put a bar over the repeating part if you're going to use it. 1.06 repeating, or 1 1/15. Those are all valid answers. Okay, last two problems are that formula for making taking a stock formula and using it to prepare a solution with a given concentration. And this really is all about diluting it. If you look at it, notice that we're always starting, our stock solution is always stronger than what we want. And we're going to take a certain amount of that solution and then dilute it with water to get what we need. Okay? And this process, this formula, C1V1 equals C2V2, tells us how to do that. I do include this formula on the test. Okay? You can put it on your note card if you'd like to, but it should be on the test just the same way that it's on the sample test. All right, so problem 27 says, prepare 45 milliliters of 1.4% solution from a 7% stock solution. Like I said, notice the stock solution is always stronger than what we want, and that's why we add water to it. Okay, so C1 is 1.4, V1 is 45, C2 is 7, and V2 is what we're solving for. So I'll put an X there. All right, so we do 1.4 times 45, and that gives us 63. And then divide on both sides by 7, so X equals 9. So we need 9 milliliters of 7% solution. And then we're going to dilute it with, what, 36 milliliters of water. And to get that, all I did was 45 minus 9 gives us 36. These two should always add up to give you how much you're going to need. Okay, problem 28. Here we want 18 milliliters of 3% solution from a 10% stock solution. Again, notice the stock solution is stronger. We're going to dilute it with water to make it weaker. All right, so C1 is 3, B1 is 18, C2 is 10, V2 is X. All right, so multiply these. 54 equals 10X. Divide on both sides by 10. X is 5.4. So how much water do we need? We're going to need, what, 12.6 milliliters of water. So that 5.4 and 12.6 make 18 milliliters. Okay, so that's the whole test. You should know that we've got a 2-hour session for you to take the test. That should be plenty of time. Again, don't forget you can bring a 3x5 note card with you. Bring your calculator, a pen or a pencil, some scrap paper. And as always, if you have any questions before the test, please let me know. Thanks.